welcome today Nancy Crochiere. Hello, Nancy.
Hi, Doris.
Well, we're here to talk about your new book, Graceland. Tell us a little bit about it. It's a fun book. Tell us a little bit about the storyline.
Well, Graceland is about a single mom who is forced to chase her Elvis-obsessed mother and her pink-haired teenage daughter to Memphis to stop them from revealing a long-held secret. So it's a multi-generational road trip chase, actually, from Boston to Memphis with 3 generations of women, mother, daughter, grandmother, all with their own goals and agenda, all of them at odds with one another, but each of them in their own way kind of seeking forgiveness and grace.
Well, and then what is it that Olivia, the grandmother, is so determined to go to Memphis or to see Graceland? Without spoiling the story, can you tell us a little bit about her motivation?
Yes. Well, Olivia has 2 different motivations. Olivia is a former soap star. So for 35 years, she starred in she played the villainess in a soap opera and was famous because of that. But now she is pushing 80 and she's on oxygen, and she has one more thing she'd like to do in her life. She's always been obsessed by Elvis. She had a legendary date with him back in, I think, 1970. And she wants to visit Graceland again one more time before she dies. So that's one motivation. Another motivation is that she wants to help her daughter Hope, because she realizes that Hope basically has a secret in Memphis, that Memphis was Hope's hometown, and she left there 17 years ago, and she left with a secret. And Olivia believes correctly that this secret is forcing Hope to push people away because she doesn't want them to figure out what's going on.
Yeah, but then Dylan, the Hope's daughter, steps in and takes off with Olivia, right?
Yes, and that's sort of how the story developed in my mind. Actually, I think family dynamics are fascinating, and I think it's interesting sometimes when you have a child who is not exactly like either the parents, but is like a grandparent. And that was what I was envisioning for Dylan and Olivia. They are actually much more like one another than either of them are like Hope. So when they take off together for Memphis, it's not only is Hope sort of angry and hurt, but she also realizes that they are about to upend her life by revealing something she doesn't want revealed.
And Olivia actually tells Dylan that she's going to meet her father if she would go with her. Is that the...
Exactly. Yeah. In order to get Dylan on board with the whole idea, of course, Olivia had to offer her something, and she sort of bribes her with the understanding that not only is her father alive, which is in contrast to what Hope, her mother, has been telling her all her life, but her father is in Memphis, and she can actually meet her father. So that's what propels Dylan onto the road with Olivia.
Well, it's a fun ride, and we're not going to reveal everything here, but tell us, this is your very first novel, right?
It is, yes.
But then you've been writing for a long time for newspapers, doing a column?
Yeah, I think I've done every other kind of writing possible, but I did a lot of columns for about 13 years while my girls were growing up. I wrote a humor column for a local newspaper chain here in northeastern Massachusetts. And so it was mostly kind of Irma Bombeck style pieces about family life and battles with technology and battles over the thermostat with my husband. So I did that we all know what that's like. I did that for a long period of time. And then, but I always wanted to write a book. I always wanted to write fiction. And so when my girls were grown and I had essentially run out of material, I decided to turn my hand to novel writing.
And what prompted you to write about Graceland and Elvis?
Well, there's a few different answers for that. It's a good question. One of them is that I liked the metaphor of Graceland, that these feuding family members are all sort of on a journey toward grace. But I also just thought it was fascinating, the idea that the soap opera villainess has always had a an obsession with Elvis, and there's a backstory behind that we won't necessarily.
Right, we won't go into that.
We won't reveal here, but
right.
I inherited my older sister's Elvis records, and I remember one time a few years ago when I was first starting the book, I had a dream that I was dating Elvis, and which was a funny thing to dream, because number one, I'm married, and number two, Elvis is dead. So there is really no possibility of that happening. But it made me think when I woke up, well, there must be people still out there who did date Elvis. And of course, Priscilla's still around, and Ginger Alden, Elvis's fiance when he died, they're still around. But I just also wondered about the random women that he met here and there.
Right. And how much research did you have to do? Did you have to go there?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the very first thing I did was I read Peter Guralnick's 2-volume biography of Elvis, which was fun. But yes, I visited Memphis a number of times, and I also did the road trip from Boston to Memphis. And I have a lot of very funny stories of all the research I did within Memphis, because there were things that I just wanted to know more about. I met with a historian there that talked about Memphis back 20 years ago when Hope would have lived there. But also, I sort of had to talk my way into a senator's office in Memphis to see what a politician's office might look like. And I tried to talk my way into a look at a jail cell in Memphis, and into a locked auditorium. So there were a lot of funny stories about the research.
About the research, and so tell us a little bit about your publishing journey. Was it difficult for you to find an agent, being a first-time novelist?
Yeah, that was definitely a journey, and it was hard. I think for a lot of people it is hard. Of course, I started querying on my novel in February of 2020, which may ring a bell for a lot of people as a bad time for
right.
almost anything, as our world was entirely turned upside down. And I think over the next year or so, agents and publishers were a little bit, at loose ends, trying to determine what people were going to want to read in a global pandemic and what they should be acquiring. So I queried for about 8 months. And although I had a lot of interest, I wasn't getting any actual bites. So I took the novel back and worked on it again for about a year. And at that point, I had cut it down a bit and tightened it. I had worked with a development editor just to make sure everything was all there, all the T's crossed and I's dotted. And at that point, I was able to get an agent very quickly, and we got a publishing deal very quickly after that as well.
That's wonderful. And how is it to work with Avon? I think that Avon is your publisher, right?
Yeah.
HarperCollins, yeah.
HarperCollins, Avon, yeah. It's great. Avon was for a long time focusing a lot on romance, but they're moving more into women's fiction, book club fiction, and so they were excited to acquire Graceland because it fits pretty squarely into that mold.
Oh, that's great. Who's your agent?
Her name is Paige Sisley. She's with Cook McDermott.
Okay. And what you've got, well, you've earned several awards already, a number of awards. Can you tell us a few awards that you've earned?
Yeah, well, not with this book, no awards yet, but we've been on a few lists, which has been very exciting. We were on BookBub's best books for spring, and there was another organization recently that put us on the most exciting releases for May, and I got a very good review on Booklist. So those are the things for this book. I had written a previous book that was a collection of my columns that I wrote for
right
years.
I think that's maybe what I'm talking about.
That received the forward reviews book of was a runner-up or finalist for Book of the Year and Independent Publishers award for humor in fiction.
That's what I was talking about. Yeah, because this book is coming out in late May. Is that right?
Yep.
Graceland?
Yep.
Yeah.
May 30th.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, yeah, I expect you'll get a lot of comment. And you're with the Grub Street writing group, I think. Is that right?
Yes. When I decided that I wanted to write a novel back 7 or 8 years ago, I started taking classes at Grub Street, and it's an organization that was incredibly helpful to me. I've taken a number of classes there, including their novel incubator program, which is a year-long program in novel writing that they started it. At one point, it was pretty much unmatched in the country. But I think there are some other programs popping up here and there. But it's hard to learn novel writing because a lot of MFA programs just don't have the bandwidth to have all their students write novels. They prefer to have people working on shorter pieces.
Very interesting observation. Do you have some good comment for people that are trying to break into publishing? Because you know how hard it is, probably.
It is hard, and I have two separate pieces of advice. One is persistence. That worked for me. I mean, I did query, before I got my agent in those 8 months, I probably queried like 60 agents, and then
60.
Yeah. And then when I took it back, and about 12 of the 60 had asked for the whole manuscript. So I knew I had something there that I just needed to refine. And then when I took it back and worked on it for the year, I pitched it through Grub Street's Muse in the Marketplace. I actually pitched it to 9 or 10 agents there, and that's where I found a couple people who were very interested in it. So
I don't think it's unusual for writers to have to query that many. I think a lot of people don't realize, how really tough it is.
Absolutely. Yeah. Agents get I don't know, I've heard the statistics and I forget now, but some of them get 800 queries a week. It's just amazing.
Yeah. Did you ever feel like giving up or doing something else?
I did wonder about moving on to another project, but I kept going back to this because I liked it. I just felt like I felt like there was something there, and I just wanted to see it in print. So I'm glad I persisted.
Oh, yeah. Well, we are too, actually. It's a very fun book. And one more question, and that is that, well, we can see you on television, I believe.
You're talking about my secret career as a
Your
actor?
secret career,
Yeah.
yes. Yes. Tell us a little bit about that and where we can we see you?
It's only here or there over the past few years. Yes, I've worked as an extra in TV and movies, and so you can see me pretty well. A background actor or an extra, whether or not you're actually seen on camera can be a matter of luck, because sometimes they just want somebody who's going to walk down the street behind Kevin Bacon, and you end up getting cut from the shot or whatever. But I had the good fortune to be in a couple movies where you really can see me. One was the movie Joy with Bradley Cooper and Jennifer Lawrence. It came out a few years ago. You can see me pretty clearly as a manager of their the phone shopping network there. And the other was a movie called Love, Weddings, and Other Disasters. And I ended up playing the distraught mother of the bride whose wedding was just ruined. So
That's a lot of fun.
it is.
Well, one more question, and that is, what are you working on next? What do you think you'll do after this?
I have another novel in mind. It's not very far along, but I continue to think about it all the time. I wrote a screenplay with a friend of mine. It was based on her memoir, and we've submitted that to a screenwriting competition. So those are the things that I'm working on now, other than publicizing Graceland, which is a whole new experience for me as a debut author, and has been a lot of fun, but very all-consuming as well.
Okay, Nancy. Well, Nancy Crochiere, I'm going to get that name right for sure.
Good enough.
All
Good
right.
enough.
Okay. Thank you very much for talking with us today, Nancy. And
It's been my pleasure.
we look forward to your next one as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Doris. Have a good day.